I'm sorry. I know that the voices of the characters are all gonna sound like they're crying. I'm having a moment. Hello, key holders. My name is BroGuyDM, and welcome back to another episode of Our Life Beginning and Always. Today we are going to be going through the family and dinner segment, and last time we went through the growing and wave, where we found out a lot more about Aura and, well, just about how Cove feels about us and how we feel about him. It was a very heartwarming segment where I discussed some things, they discussed some things, and we played a little bit of Hangman. But for now, we are going to go into family and dinner. I don't know whether family means me talking about what if I would want a family, or if that's more going to be like me spending time with my family and not so much with Cove, but we'll find out. Let's do this, everyone. The sun warmed your skin from its place in the sky, and you closed your eyes, enjoying the mix of the heat with the pleasant breeze that drifted past you. You and Lee had spread out a blanket on top of one of the hills behind your house and had been relaxing there for a while now. Lee had come over earlier in the day, and while a range of activities have been discussed, from staying home to heading down to the beach, a picnic on the hill had been your choice, the choice both of you settled on. Lee, the person I talked to on the phone, that was my cousin's name. I think I got it wrong last time, but I was close. A small spread was laid out in front of you. Some bottled water, soft drinks, as well as chips and sliced fruits. You sat up and reached for a snack, listening to Lee talk away about the musical she had gotten to see a few days ago. Oh god, what voice did I give you? I tried to go like Ariel. Out of this world. It was unbelievable. There was singing, dancing, and crazy stunts, and it was all done live right in front of my face. Maybe one day we could go together. I've got to see more shows like that. You smiled at Lee's enthusiasm, knowing how much she enjoyed singing and performing. And she was good at it too. You had gotten the chance to hear her sing a couple of times. Oh, tunes, but yeah. And you knew she put a lot of effort into it. You didn't like to sing, but you had been told you were good at it, you weren't good at singing. You liked to sing, but you weren't very good. That didn't stop you from doing it, though. I wonder if maybe we could put on our own show. Think of how fun it'd be. We could perform for our parents and ask our friends and some of the other people to come and watch too. It'd totally work. I don't know about that. The idea gave you stage fright, but wouldn't showing off to everybody be fun? The thought of an audience made you queasy. Not really.
Are you sure?
Are you really super sure? You have so many skills you could show off to the masses. Okay, I'll do it. You could see that Lee was really excited about the idea, so with a small nod of your head, you agreed to go along with it. I'm gonna sing! Do you want it too? Or maybe do something else? I'll write the song. Oh, I hope it's something dramatic. No, how about fun? Fun is better. What about both? Oh, that was me. What about both? Lee's face lit up at the idea, and she gave you a broad smile. That sounds perfect. Is there anything else that's coming to your head? One more thing. I'll play an instrument. The violin. That will be perfect. Is there anything else that's coming to your head? No, that's all. Actually, yeah, one more thing. I'll do the backdrop. I'll make a backdrop or some kind of stage. Yes, that'd make it a real show. I'll draw something. You had an art kit at home full of colored pencils and markers that you could use to create a piece for the show. You just hoped there'd be a large enough piece of paper or cardboard for their backdrop. I think that'll all make an amazing show. You got things pretty covered. The two of you ran back to your house to grab the supplies you needed, dodging your mom's amused questions before heading back out to the blanket to get started. You spread a large sheet of paper out in front of you and began imagining a backdrop of your scene for the show. Me and you discussed the plans in detail, settling on a song first and then practicing out parts for the show. The afternoon passed quickly, the sun dropping lower and lower in the sky, and after having thoroughly worked out how the show was going to go, you decided to take a break. Oh, we should have invited Cove to watch us practice our show. He could tell if it's bad before we put on the real thing. You guessed that would have been okay. Yeah, it might have been nice for Cove to be there, but you feel weird when thinking about him watching the show. We could ask him to watch us another time. Maybe. It's too bad Derek isn't in the neighborhood today. I like him. Yeah, he's a good person. I knew you'd think so. But speaking of boys we like, what's the relationship status between you and Cove? Is it good? Yeah, it's good. I'm so happy for you. But like, really, are you gonna be telling him you have a crush on him anytime soon or what? I'm pretty sure he already knows. Pretty sure isn't sure. You should declare it to him. You mumbled something incoherent, and she gave you a pointed look. You know that he has a crush on you too. It's obvious for him. It's obvious for you. Why not just do it? You didn't say anything, wondering about the possibilities instead. The two of you talked a little more about Cove, amongst other topics, and you found that it was nice having someone to speak with about these sort of things. Finally, you both decided to pack everything up and head back home for the evening. I like my little group of 3 people. Lee talked excitedly about the show as you did, and you thought back on what you had already accomplished for it. You could definitely do with a little more practice, but what you had so far was a solid foundation for the performance. Upon walking through the front door, you were met by your moms, Elizabeth, and Elizabeth hovering around each other in the living room. Is something wrong? Oh, the music changed quick there. Tension hung thick in the air as the 3 of them turned to you and Lee frowning lightly. You had interrupted something, exactly what, you weren't sure. What's going on? Your moms looked at each other, wondering which one of them was going to speak first. Eventually, Mom cleared her throat and spoke. We're just having a talk with your sister. The room fell quiet again, with no one quite knowing what to say. You felt incredibly awkward, but the silence didn't last long. You don't have to stop just because those 2 are here. There's no reason to try keeping it a secret. Elizabeth was mad, with her arms folded defensively over her chest, but your moms nodded in agreement with her. Oh. Yeah, I mean, I knew they were adopted. I mean, biology dictates that would have to happen unless, Ma or Mother was the parent, which I could have seen Ma being the parent because she said she was into both, but I guess that's not the case. I really thought that would be, though, because Elizabeth and Ma have a similar palette, but I guess her eyes don't match Ma's, and her hair doesn't match either of theirs, so it kind of makes sense. Elizabeth was asking about her parents. Her biological ones. The world spun around you at the news. You couldn't understand why this was happening now. When you glanced at Lee, she shuffled her feet uncomfortably, as though she didn't know if she should be there or not anymore. You didn't know either. Your moms had always been open and honest about the fact that neither of them had given birth to you or your sister. Okay, so we're both adopted. That makes sense because I was able to just put in how I looked. But the details hadn't been fully explained before. It made sense that Elizabeth didn't know a lot about her biological parents and wanted to know more. You just hadn't ever thought you'd accidentally stumble into it. Elizabeth looked at your parents expectantly. She wasn't going to let the unintentional interruption derail things. So this is what it means by a family. Elizabeth's wanting to know about our biological family. I don't know. I don't feel like biological parents is super important. I mean, if you tell your kids they're adopted and they want to know, that's their thing. But if sometimes it's better for them not to know the biological parents, maybe I'm going to be heavily disagreed with. But I mean, if their parents both died in a horrible accident, how are they going to take it? Or if they decided to give them up and it turned out they were horrible people, how would the daughter take it? I mean, that'd be weird, wouldn't you think? I don't know. Personally, there are points in my life where I think that is both a good and bad thing. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll see where the story takes it. We don't want to keep that information from either of you. It's your right to know your past, but we did want to wait until you asked to hear yourselves. Well, it's happening now, so... Your mom shared a nervous glance, and Ma took in a quick breath before speaking again. I adopted you from the Philippines when you were just a baby. Elizabeth dropped her arms, her eyebrows shooting upwards in surprise. Wait, I wasn't born here?
No.
No, you weren't. You could clearly see that your sister was appalled by this information. You struggled even more with what to do or how to react. Am I gonna have to pass some tests to even be a citizen?
No.
No, you were adopted into the country. We took care of things. You're already a citizen. You have nothing to worry about. I actually love the fact that I adopted her from another country, because I feel like there are a lot of children in both other countries and in America that could really use a good home. And I feel like adoption, I don't know. For me, I think adoption is a good option, especially for people who are interested in the opposite gender. So I think, and adopting from another country, especially one that's in trouble or one that's impoverished, is a good thing. But, yeah. I followed all the laws when it came to bringing a child into the U.S. Nothing can be held against you. Elizabeth sighed, placated with the information, but still far from happy. I guess, yeah, U.S. Technically, America's not what the USA is called, but, you know. Who were my parents? As people, why did they put me up for adoption in the first place? Ma softly put her hands over Elizabeth's shoulders, trying to provide some support before she gave her the answer.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry, sweetie. Your parents were reported to have died. Figured that would be the case. They didn't go into details on the specifics of how, but you were an orphan. I wish we had better news for you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth was torn between emotions. Her eyes filled with tears as she threw her hands in the air, settling on a rage. Great! So I can never meet them, even if I wanted to. Not that I could have anyway, since they lived in another part of the world when they were still alive. Elizabeth turned her back on you and your moms, and stormed off, sprinting up the stairs to her room, before anyone could stop her. I have to go and talk to her. Ma immediately started to follow her, but Mom gently held her by the arm and shook her head. We should give her a little space to process it all. Your Ma's head hung low, but she stopped walking. With Elizabeth now gone, the two of them seemed to remember you. Anne and Lee were still standing awkwardly off to the side. I'm sorry you had to come and see all that. It's not how I expected it would have happened when the time came. But since it's the topic of the day, or is there anything you'd like to ask? You deserve to know, after all. We patted your back and gave you a supportive look. I feel like there's no better time than the present. I know that Elizabeth's upset, but I don't want to ask them when Aura's upset. And I guess this could help me bond with my sister, or at least support Elizabeth. Like, finding out, because I'm curious who Aura's parents were. I want to know. Your parents both nodded in sync to your reply, ready to talk. I can leave if you want to have things be private. I want you to be here. I can do that. Li shifted a little closer to you in support, and you were glad to have her there with you. It made you feel a little stronger, somehow. You turned to face your parents again, preparing yourself for what they were about to tell you. Ma was the first to speak, her voice quivering with emotion. You were adopted as a baby, but 2 years after Elizabeth. We used different organizations that time. A different organization at that time. And you were adopted within the US. We're sorry to tell you, Aura. Your parents had also passed away. And no other family member took you in, if there were any. That's why we wanted to wait until you asked. You didn't want to suddenly drop that in your lap. We wanted you to be prepared.
I'm sorry.
We're sorry, Aura. Lee gave you a reassuring squeeze on the arm to show she was there for you. It's not your fault. You didn't kill them, right? You were trying to lighten the mood, but your moms didn't seem any less grim. Thank you for listening, Aura. If there's anything else you want to know, all you have to do is ask. We'll do our best to answer any questions you have.
Are you okay?
How are you feeling now? Are you going to be okay? Lee watched you closely, as though judging how exactly she should react to what was going on. I would feel fine, but you didn't mean that. You definitely... Why would I be angry? I don't know. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just don't understand how a kid would feel. But... I personally feel this way. Why should I be angry at these guys? Why should I be angry at my parents? They've taken care of me. They gave me a good home. A really nice home at that. I have my own room. They've supported me. They've put me through school. They set up play dates with my people. They couldn't have a kid of their own. And they adopted from kids who were alone, who didn't have anyone else. At the same time... I don't know. Aura's a gentle heart. She's kind. But she doesn't want to keep things bottled up, I don't feel like. I don't think she would hold back the tears. I think she would start to cry. Personally. You started to cry. A lump formed in your throat. I mean, her old family... No one in her old family didn't want to accept her. Her sister's upset. I feel like this is just a moment where she would be sad. I mean, her old family didn't even want her, if she had any. Like, the grandparents didn't want her, nobody cared for her. I mean, these two people accepted her, and they are her family. That's how Aura would feel. But at the same time, that would have to hurt. That would have to hurt bad. A lump formed in your throat, just as warm tears started falling over your cheeks. You wiped them away with the back of your hand, sniffling quietly. No one seemed to have any words after that. You wanted to see Elizabeth. The one person you knew who would understand what you were going through was Elizabeth. She was going through the exact same thing as you, and it seemed just as upset. You headed over to the stairs and up to her room. I want to be alone. Here's the thing. I don't want to... Cove supported me when I was hurt. I supported Cove, but... Elizabeth is my sister. I've known her longer than I've known Cove, and I don't want to burden Cove with this. I'll tell him later. Like, 100% Aura will, but in this moment, and I know Elizabeth would be upset, but she's my sister. I care for her. She's family. And I don't want to involve Cove in this moment. You left Lee in the living room. It would be best to speak with Elizabeth alone. There's more of a chance of her opening up to you that way. Waiting in front of your sister's door, you raised a hand to knock on it. There was no answer for a good minute or two, and when you jiggled the handle, you found it was locked. Raising your hand again, you knocked louder this time, thinking she must have her headphones on, and so couldn't hear you. When she didn't answer the door a second time, it was clear to you that she either still couldn't hear, or was just straight up ignoring you. It hurt to be shut out, especially right now. At this point, I want to see Cove. You wanted to see Cove. More than anything in that moment, you wanted to see Cove. No one could be there for you the way he could. You turned on your heel without another word and headed towards the front door. Once outside, you strode across the street purposefully. Cove's house set in your sights. After you raised a hand to knock on the door, it only took a few moments for Mr. Holden to answer it, giving you a broad smile. Cliff's face fell suddenly. He could tell something was wrong, but he didn't say anything else. Instead, he looked back towards the hallway where you knew Cove's room was located. Cove! Aura's here. After calling for his son, he turned back to you with an encouraging thumbs up. He, won't be long. As promised, it didn't take long before footsteps echoed down the hall, and Cove's head of green hair appeared before you all. He looked ahead to see you standing there. When his eyes widened, you guessed he had noticed you'd been crying. Aura? Cove pushed past his dad to stand with you outside the door, watching you with concern etched all over his face. You kids be safe. If you need anything, you know where to find me. I love you, Mr. Holden. I love you. You're a great guy. He gave you a kind smile before softly shutting the front door, giving you some privacy. Cove stepped closer still and spoke cautiously.
What's wrong?
What's wrong? I need to talk to you. Cove's forehead furrowed in concern at your words. I'm here. You can tell me. My mom and dad who gave birth to me, they're dead. Without having to say anything else, Cove reached out and pulled you into a tight embrace, his familiar warmth enveloping you. I'm sorry, Aura. His words were whispered comfortingly into your shoulder. You started to cry. You pressed your face into the crook of his neck, unable to stop the tears. Oh, God! The hold he had on you tightened. Can we talk somewhere else? You felt uncomfortable huddling around the entrance of Cove's house. That feeling didn't seem to be a problem, though. Yeah. Cove took you by the arm and encouraged you along behind him. You followed without protest. Of course it's the fucking hill at night. Jesus, ow. Oh, that hurts. Oh, the next moment after this one better be good. Oh, this hurts more than the runaway. Ooh. You headed towards the hill, where you and Lee had spent the majority of your day. Things seemed so different then. Only a couple of hours ago, and you wondered how everything had changed so drastically. You took a seat in the grass beside Cove, who bent his legs and rested his arms on them before turning to you again. Can you, explain everything to me? I'm sorry, I know that the voices of the characters are all gonna sound like they're crying. I'm having a moment. This is, I am not a very good person at hiding my emotions in situations like this, and this is getting to me, so, I apologize ahead of time, but yeah, I'll continue narrating. You nodded softly before taking in a heavy breath and launching into the story. Cove sat quietly and listened attentively, nodding every now and then, or taking in a sharp inhale. It took a long time for you to relay the details. Dozens of stars were pinpointed in the sky as the night wore on. Silence settled between you as Cove sat quietly for a moment, contemplating everything you had said. When we finally spoke, his voice was quiet, drifting through the night towards you.
Aura,
Aura,
I'm so sorry.
I'm really sorry about what happened to your parents. So sorry. He stopped suddenly and took in a deep, shaky breath, and you got the impression he was struggling with what was right to say. I'm sad I'll never get to know them. I feel bad that I don't feel worse about it. I like that response. I never knew them at all. They're strangers, even if they did have me.
Aura,
Aura, you're not doing anything wrong. You know that, right? I think that you can be as sad as you want, for as long as you need. Or you could feel okay about it, whenever you want to. He sighed and ran a hand through his hair as he looked out over the ocean.
it's okay.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, whatever you feel about it, is how you feel about it. You don't have to force yourself to be different. Thank you, Cove. His words had made you feel better, and you knew it was true. You didn't have to apologize or make any excuses for the way you felt about it all. Cove smiled at you a little, and you could tell he was trying to be comforting. And your moms definitely don't. And your moms definitely don't. It doesn't matter if you're not blood related, you're definitely family. I can see that, and I hope you can too. You felt the reassurance in his eyes. You stayed up on the hill together a little longer, looking out over the ocean and the stars that shone brightly above it. After talking about the situation with someone who wasn't directly a part of it, you started to see things in a different light. Above all, you were glad to have Cove's support, and to know you could count on him if you needed it. Hey! The sudden voice of your sister behind you made you jump. You saw her standing a little way away. She walked closer, and you didn't know what to do, or what she was planning on saying.
So?
Would you mind going? Would you mind going? I want to talk to just Aura. You can come back. It's not going to be forever or anything. Cove seemed equal parts concerned and skeptical. Leaving now wasn't a concept that thrilled him. You nodded your head. I want to talk to you too.
Really?
Oh, then we're on the same page. She made a little move-along gesture with her hands, and it was settled. You waited until the two of you were alone before fixing her with an inquisitive look. Elizabeth folded her arms, looking you over. Did Moms tell you about your parents too? My birth parents also died. Elizabeth broke eye contact after that.
Sorry.
Sorry. Why did you want to talk to me? I went to see you, and you didn't even answer. Elizabeth raised an eyebrow at the news.
What?
I didn't hear anything. Shutting everything out with loud music was very typical of your sister. You didn't feel much less confused, though. Why did you stop doing that, then? She shook her head as though the answer should be obvious. I was worried about you. I was the only one who brought it up, but I made you deal with whatever was left when I was gone. She sighed, glancing upwards for a moment, before settling on you once more. I wanted to ask you what happened without everyone breathing down our necks. Thank you for thinking of me. She stuck her nose up a little at that, but her smile was soft. All of this upset me. She slipped back into a scowl. I'm sorry, Aura. It's a pretty depressing topic, I guess. Yeah. You have to be born in the US to become president. Oh, right, she wanted to be the president, or a famous golfer. What? You had never heard of that dream of hers before. She noticed your bafflement and continued. I get I was never gonna be the president, but just feels weird. having stuff taken away, not even getting a chance at it. I don't like having to know that when I was born, I was gonna have a completely different life. So different I can't even think about what I'd look like in my head. I could have spoken another language, lived away from everything I have ever seen here, had someone else as my sibling. And then my parents died. I was adopted, and the life I got became a totally new thing forever. I can't go back to what it was, even if I wanted to. A heaviness settled between you and the person who became your sister. I feel like that too. I can't stop wondering what my life would have been like if I wasn't adopted. There are so many things that could have been different. Elizabeth watched you seriously. She was still trying to make sense of this to you and herself. I don't know why today was the day. Nothing came up to make me ask the question. It was just something I've had in my head for a while. And it was just me and the moms in the living room. I just kind of said it finally. And there you go. She shifted from one foot to the other. Relaxing her stance just a bit, she also spoke more gently. Learning about them and what happened doesn't change how I feel about our family, Aura. She smirked, fixing you with sharp eyes. I'd already figured a long time ago that moms weren't our biological parents. That wasn't news. Technically, one of them could have been related to you. Our moms can have kids, just not both together. True, but I'm not half white or native Hawaiian. So no, neither of them could have been my mom.
Nice try.
Nice try, smart Alec. Nothing about the family I was first born in would have made me decide this wasn't my family anymore. If you had hoped you'd be free of my big sisterly status, don't think you're so lucky. She bumped her shoulder against yours playfully, her lip tilted at the corners.
You'll always be my little sister.
You'll always be my little sister. You jokingly groaned. Nope, fuck that, I'm hugging her. It took a few seconds, but she gave you a quick squeeze in return. I think I'm really lucky. Chuckling, she seemed pleased with how the conversation had gone in the end. Ready to head back home? It's been a long day. You gave her a nod.
Come on.
Come on, you two, let's go. You walked home together in a comfortable silence, down the well-worn street. The familiarity of it all felt nice. When you stepped through the door, you found your moms quietly sitting together at the kitchen table. Their heads snapped up, and they got to their feet to meet you, Ma giving you a careful smile. We're so glad to see you. I'm sorry for walking away before. That's all right, sweetheart. We're just happy to have you here again. Ma then came over and wrapped her arms around you and Elizabeth, giving you a tight hug. It didn't take long for Mom to join in, putting her arms around the both of you.
Love you.
We really couldn't have asked for better, kiddos. We love you. More than we could ever say. Moms. You were so glad your moms were all right. I love you too. You let them hug you for as long as they needed. It was a nice moment shared between you. They both pulled back eventually and grinned at the two of you. And you knew then that you all had each other. And you always would. Hey, I hope you're alright. Lee came up towards you, a soft smile plastered on her face. And are you okay, Elizabeth? Elizabeth rolled her eyes and huffed a breath, and you knew she wasn't used to showing her vulnerable side.
Fine.
I'm doing fine. Lee nodded, though you could tell she didn't quite believe her. Well, now, since we're all here, how about we do something together as a family? That sounds like an excellent idea. We should have some fun before the night's over.
Totally.
I love the sound of that. Okay. Cove looked a little bashful, likely over being included as a part of the family, but he tried not to pay much attention to it. Why not? You hid the smile that threatened to tilt your lips, knowing that Elizabeth must have been in a good mood if she hadn't even teased Cove for being part of it. And no matter what she could have said about it, you wanted him to be there. He was someone who was really important to you. Who's got a suggestion? It could be something we can do here in the house with everyone in the same room. You suddenly remembered the show you and Lee had been working on earlier. Maybe we can do our show.
Oh.
A show? This is the first time we're hearing of this. I'm intrigued.
Wonderful.
It would be amazing if you put it on for us to watch. Oh yeah, I need to see what you've cooked up. That'd be cool. You smiled at Lee, who returned the gesture while bouncing on her heels in excitement. Take some seats and we'll get everything together. Your moms collected the chairs from around the dining table and set them in a row in the living room, where there was enough space for the show. While they did that, you and Lee quickly gathered the supplies you needed and rehearsed the plan one last time. You went through the song you had written one last time, and you collected your instrument from your room, making sure it was ready to go. The backdrop you had prepared earlier was also ready to go now, that it was needed. When the two of you returned to the living room, everyone was sitting and chatting amongst themselves while they waited. The group quieted down when you and Lee stood in front of them on your makeshift stage. Lee was buzzing quietly with excitement beside you. You hadn't felt nervous all of a sudden. No matter how small that audience was, it was still all eyes on you. Okay, so welcome to our show. We only came up with it today, but we promise it'll be good. No refunds! Laughter rippled through the mini audience. Then you nodded at Lee that you were ready to begin. Lee took in a deep breath, waiting the few beats it took to get into song, and started singing. You concentrated hard on hitting the right notes on your violin. Made you proud to have the lyrics you had written sung like this. The backdrop you had created gave a great atmosphere to work off of. When the performance was over, Lee took your hand in hers, and the two of you bowed deeply together. Everyone gave you a round of applause and cheered for an encore. When you straightened yourself up, you were happy to see that even Elizabeth was clapping for you. Bravo! Bravo!
Good job.
You are so talented. Your family rose from their seats and came over to congratulate you more directly. You were beaming from ear to ear. Cove was the first one to approach, stepping up to you and Lee with a smile on his face. Nice job. Thank you. You're really great with that violin, Aura. It was cool. I was pretty good, huh? And you're humble, too. You laughed together, feeling as light as a feather. Hey, were you the one who drew the backdrop? Yeah, that was me. Cove smiled, content over his guess being correct.
Not bad.
I thought so. It was good. You couldn't help but feel flattered that he could recognize your talents so easily. Your parents gushed about how great everything was, and thanked you for sharing it with them. Elizabeth was complimentary in her own way, although she did describe the show as cute, which you know she meant as kind of kiddie. You laughed it off, however, and were just happy that everyone had a nice time. In that moment, you couldn't have been more pleased to be a part of the family you had. That was a long one, but we're still gonna do two, like I said. From getting me to cry to getting me to smile, a good story game. Oh god, this is gonna be one of the tops on my list of the top 250 series. A little sad that most of the 250s aren't gonna be story games. Those are my favorite games to play. But I have committed myself to that goal, and we are going to see it through. It is going to take a long-ass time, so I hope you're all here for it. But without further ado, let's do dinner, which is probably going to be a lot more wholesome than that was. And I will not cry this time, so woohoo! Sunlight shone through the windows as you sat in your living room, your home phone pressed to your ear. Cove was on the other end.
It'd been shaping up to be an ordinary day like any other, until Cove had called unexpectedly. He sounded unusually nervous greeting you.
He sounded... Oh. Shit. I'm gonna pause that and read through it like I have done on previous ones. He sounded more upset than usual. You listened silently as he kept talking, his words stilted. So, I was just, wondering, do you want to come over to my house for dinner tonight? The question came out strangely, almost like he'd rehearsed it a few times beforehand. Oh, thank you, Cove. Oh, wait, dinner, I get it now. I was wondering, I was like, I've already had dinner with Cove. Why would that be a moment? Because I'm having dinner at his house, which means we get to see his house. Your eyes widened a little. You hadn't expected this to be the reason behind the cove. Yeah, I'll go. It was, Oh. It seemed the Cove still had more to say, but you just interrupted him. Oops. Cool, well. He stumbled for a bit, trying to gather his thoughts again. My mom and dad, they really want you to be there. If your parents don't have a problem with it, they asked me to ask you. You took a moment to think. Dinner at home would be quiet and uneventful today. If you really wanted to, you could go to Cove's instead. Cove spoke up again, breaking your thought train. His voice was softer than before. Also, I want you to be there. Can you come over, I mean? Yeah, I can come. Thanks, Aura. I'll let them know. That wasn't Aura's voice. Yeah, I can come. Thanks, Aura. I'll let them know when I can. He sounded noticeably relieved by your response. Was you coming over for a dinner today that serious? He wants me to meet the parents. Haha, so soon. I've already met the parents, though. He spoke to you for a little while longer to explain what time to come over and other details, then hung up. And that was that, for now, anyway. Soon enough, the sun dipped out of the sky, and evening came. It was time for you to head to Cove's house. After letting Elizabeth know you were leaving, she didn't look away from the TV, just grunted. You made the small journey across the street. You knocked a couple times on the heavy door to their condo. As you waited for an answer, you found yourself contemplating being a guest while both of Cove's parents were there. Ah! The idea made you curious. It was exciting. The idea made you curious. You wondered why they decided to invite you out of the blue. Maybe you'd find out later tonight. You didn't get too much time with your thoughts, though. The door opened soon enough. Cove's mom, Kira, stood in the frame, smiling warmly at you.
Come on.
Hey, Aura. Oh, wait, I made her kind of Russian. Hail, Aura. Come in, please. Come in. She opened the door wider and moved to make room. You stepped inside, allowing her to shut it behind you. Ooh, I like the digs. MTV flashes across the screen. Thanks so much for coming over. I know it was kind of last second. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Of course. I know your voice isn't Russian in that, but you just gave me a Russian vibe when I saw you. Of course. Just make yourself at home. It's not my home, but I've been given permission to say that. Hey, Aura. Welcome to our humble abode. You jerked your head up towards the sound of Mr. Holden's voice. He waved at you briefly from the kitchen, his back turned and a large spoon in his hand. Hope you're hungry, because I'm whipping up a lot of tasty stuff. True to his words, you heard something sizzling on the stove. You closed your eyes and inhaled. It smelled spicy and savory. With Mr. Holden busy and Cove nowhere to be seen, it was just you and Kira. She gave you a wry smile. He sure is. Well, I've been barred from cooking the entire time I'm staying here. Can you believe that? She nudged you with an elbow. Mr. Holden scoffed good-naturedly, then spoke from over his shoulder. You're on vacation, Kira. You need to accept that already. She yelled back, amusement obvious on her face and in her tone. People still cook while they're on vacation. Everyone's got to eat. It's not like I'm some celebrity who can go out for every meal or hire a private chef.
Sorry.
Well, in this house, you're VIP. Kira smiled and shook her head quietly. Then she turned to face you once more. Sorry about that, Aura. Here I was trying to strike up a conversation with you, and Cliff just had to butt in. I don't butt in. She eyed him, chuckling in disbelief. He wasn't exactly disapproving her point with that. She is my favorite voice. Kara leaned over to whisper to you. It's okay. He likes to be included. But since Clifford insisted on cooking all by himself, he'll have to wait. The two of us can have a chat. Her next question continued to be said in a hushed tone, just to be safe. So, how are you doing? Oh, I'm good. I'm doing... I'm good. Kira didn't seem convinced by your awkward phrasing, but she nodded anyway. She opened her mouth to say something more, but some lightly pounding footsteps caught your attention. You checked to see Cove emerge from the hall. A few moments later, he might have heard all the commotion and left his room to see what was going on. He quickly took stock of the situation. I like the unbuttoned shirt. I know I chose that for him, but I like it. His cheeks tinted pink at the sight of you standing in his living room, and his hands came up to rub his arm, almost bashfully. Aura, you made it. Thanks for coming. Ko's voice was unnaturally loud, as if he thought you wouldn't be able to hear him from where you were, only a feet away. Hi, Cove. Are you doing okay? Yeah, I'm fine. He didn't sound convincing at all. You narrowed your eyes suspiciously, but didn't call him out on it. If you could talk to him alone tonight, maybe you'd ask him what was going on then. It was when you glanced away from Cove that you spotted his parents watching the two of you interact. Cove noticed their stares too, meeting them with narrowed eyes. Are we having dinner now? Not yet, bud. I'm still cooking. Alright, I'm gonna go back to my room. As he turned to leave, he bent his head to the side to face you. You coming? The question was quiet, but you heard it clearly. You smiled, pleased that he asked, and nodded in affirmation. Cove turned fully and made his way down the hall. Have fun, you two. We'll call you when the food's ready to go. With that, you followed Cove. The two of you made your way down the hall. This was the first time you had been invited to see Cove's room. Cove got to the door first. Oh, I didn't realize right-clicking would do that. Okay, good to know. Opening it and stepping inside, you joined him. I'm going to say that it's the first time I've seen it because I've never seen it before. Oh, wow, look at this. Of course, he has a surfboard. He has the seashells, probably one of the shells I gave him up there, or tried to give him. There's all the fish. What? Oh, that's a little platform he can climb up to. There's a fish tank. Nice writing. His room is very neat for a guy's room. Maybe I was just a freaking very messy guy as a kid. Actually, no, I wasn't. My brothers were. I shared a room, so I always was cleaning up after them. My room right now is freaking clean as hell, or my workroom at least. There was a mat on the floor in front of the door. As you stepped over the threshold into his room, you felt the crunch of sand beneath your feet. You glanced down. Sand was clustered around the entrance. You even spotted smaller amounts of it dusting the rest of the room's floor. Though you hadn't anticipated it, you weren't surprised at the sight. Of course, Beach Boy Cove Holden would get his room all sandy. This is my room. Cove was a bit shy as he said so, fidgeting with the hem of his shirt, using one hand and vaguely gesturing to the space with the other. There's stuff you can sit on, if you want. You looked over at the desk, Cove. Just chair as an option. When you turned back, Cove was already sitting on the edge of his large bed. Thank you for letting me come over. I'm not going to insult his room. I should be the one thanking you. You furrowed your brows at his shifty reaction to everything, but you could tell he wasn't in the mood to talk about it right now. You sat down next to Cove. As soon as you sat next to him, I sit next to him all the time. It'd be reaction at this point. As soon as you sat next to him, Cove grew tense, his back went stiff, and he ducked his head away. He tried to hide a trembling smile. Oh my god! He said it under his breath as if he didn't want you to hear. You obviously did, and easily, since you were right beside him. You chuckled over it. He raised his eyebrow. You both kept noticing the other's every move. You're like an open book. You know that? I'm not. R2. Cove scowled before shifting nervously on the bed. He pointedly glanced away from you, the tips of his ears reddening. With the silence growing, your gaze began to drift. You stared at the bright fish swimming in the tank. There were a bunch of them, floating to and fro in the open space. They stood out starkly against the green aquarium plants. How long have you had those fish?
Yes.
My dad bought them for me not very long after I moved here. I guess it's been years now. Wow, that's a long time. You peered carefully into the tank. The fish looked to be doing well. You must take good care of them. Most of them were small, but there was one especially big one. What are their names? I don't name them. Well, not really. You lifted an eyebrow at that. He continued the explanation sleepishly. Mostly I just call them things based on what they look like. Squirt for a small one, tangerine for a really orange one, that sort of thing. I've had a lot of fish, and I'm not that good at coming up with names. You found that funny. Who knew? Who knew that was a weakness of his? It was an entertaining revelation. Oh, a couple of them have other types of names. He pointed to a small orangish redfish. It was minding its own business away from the others. My dad named her Dreamcatcher, and that's other one's Mark. Mom came up with that one. Cove smiled to himself, his eyes reflecting the glow from the tank. You let other people name your fish?
It's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. He then turned to you, lifting his head to the side. There was a considering look on his face. Do you want to name one? Can I? His smile grew a little at your interest. Sure. There's a few who don't have names right now, the newer ones. You can pick which one you want to name. He pointed each of the recent acquisitions to you. The first was the smallest fish in the tank. It was completely orange and zipped all over the place, running laps around the other ones. The second was slightly bigger and red. Its tail was dotted with black spots, which almost resembled freckles. The last fish was the biggest one. Its multicolored scales rippled under the bright light of the tank as it slowly made its way across the vast expanse. You went with... I like the smallest one. Cove only nodded at your answer, waiting on you to decide a suitable name. You watched the fish you chose closely. As you did, a name eventually came to you. I like... It's Zippy. Type in a name. I kind of like Flash. I feel like I was a nerd, but let me think. I can do better than that. It's a zippy fish that moves around. I'm not going with the obvious name, which is Zippy. Let's think. Trying to think of something cool. I like Wizard. Alright, it's Wizard. With that, his attention moved from you to the tank. He peered fondly at it and its inhabitants. You smiled proudly at Wizard as it swam through the tendrils of the plants, disappearing, then reappearing soon after. Oh, I should have named him Rogue! Wizard's a good name. You noticed then that Cove was sitting closer to you than he was before. He must have scooted over at some point during the conversation. This close, your shoulders were almost brushing against each other. Your heartbeat picked up a little at the realization. You know I'm not allowed to have pets in my house, not even fish. The corners of Cove's lips turned down at that. That doesn't sound fair. It's not like fish would make a mess of your house or anything. You just gotta take care of the tank and feed them, and they'll be okay. I'd be so sad without my cat. Right? My moms can be strict over the weirdest things sometimes. They trust Elizabeth and me to go around the neighborhood alone, but they won't let us have a pet. It doesn't make sense. Maybe when you're even older, they'll let you. I don't know. They seem pretty against it. Your current conversation brought to mind a memory from years ago. You launched into it without any warning, earning you a brief, confused look from Cove. One time, Elizabeth came back from playing at the beach and just shut herself in her room. She only came down for food, and then she ran back upstairs straight after. It was weird. My moms didn't think much of it at first, though. But then that night, Ma went to her room to say goodnight and started screaming. Mom and I ran over to see what happened. Lizzie had this huge lizard in her arms. Cove's eyebrows rose at that, and he leaned forward in interest.
Really?
A lizard? Where'd that come from? Elizabeth said she saw it half buried in the sand and didn't know what it was. Then she pulled it out and got the answer. So she brought it home. She hid the lizard in her room for most of the day because she wanted to keep it. Mom and Ma were not happy. They worried about putting it out during night, but she was going to have to let it go in the morning. Lizzie was really upset. She did bring it back to the beach eventually, but she wouldn't talk to anyone for days. When she did get over it, it was almost like it never happened. That's very interesting. That seems like a young Lizzie move, though. You laughed, thinking back to that time. Elizabeth had always been stubborn, but when she was younger, she quickly forgot grudges. Now, it wasn't so easy. Cove had been quiet for most of the story. Apart from the reveal of the lizard, he had a thoughtful look on his face. I can't even imagine what it'd be like to have a sibling. He gave serious thought to his statement before you told him. There are ups and downs. It's fun to have her there when she wants to be there, but now Elizabeth barely feels like hanging out with me. Cove pursed his lips at the word, considering them quietly for a while. I keep going back into Aura's kid's voice. She hardly ever wants to hang out with me. That's interesting. I think your family's cool. He didn't have much else to say, though while on the topic of your family, you considered your relationship with your moms, too. You got along with your mom. They were the absolute best. I love my moms. You couldn't even consider having another opinion. You couldn't have better parents. Well, say what you want about them, but at least your moms never tried to pay someone to be your friend. The thought prompted you to look over at Cove. He probably still didn't know what happened. You doubted that Mr. Holden mentioned it to you, and you never had. You wondered if you should tell him. It was a long time ago, but you were keeping a secret from Cove. I think this is a good time to tell him. You decided to tell him. You took a deep breath, steadying breath to prepare yourself for the conversation now. You just had to figure out how to tell him. Cove, I have something really... Please don't get mad about this, but... Cove's brow furrowed at your uncomfortable tone. He turned to give you his full attention. About what? You stared into his bright ocean eyes. You told him the truth. So, this was way back, when you moved here, and the first time I met your dad, actually. Your dad, well, he offered to give me $20 to be friends with you. Cove sat still, uncharacteristically. There was an unreadable expression on his face. His eyes seemed to look through you, and you didn't know what to do next. Then without saying a word, Cove stood up from his bed in a single motion, and he just bolted right out of the room. For a moment, you didn't move a muscle. You were in shock. This was... Oh no. Your senses quickly came back. You shot out into the Cove. Cove! There was no response to your call. You could see Cove down the way. He had already sprinted back to the living room. His arms were stuck at his sides, with hands tightly balled into fists. I felt it was a good time. He might not have been facing you, but you didn't need to see his face to know how he felt. Cove was furious. His parents were nearly fit Ish setting the table, they greeted him, none the wiser about what was to happen.
Huh?
Hey, what's up? When did you start running in the house? Are you that famished? You were able to catch up in full and stand near Cove. The parents' words didn't even register in his ears. Their child was wholly focused on another matter. He was practically shaking. Cove took one more step forward and glared up at his father's face. You paid Aura to be friends with me? Mr. Holden froze. He looked like a helpless deer caught in headlights.
Seriously?
Clifford, are you serious? He whipped his head back toward Kira, his eyes wide and blinking rapidly. It was only one time. The emission elicited an aghast expression from his ex-wife. Mr. Holden raised his hands up to gesture defensively. It seemed like a good idea when it happened. She covered her eyes with one hand. It was clear that her patience was frayed, but she was not so shocked anymore. Mr. Holden bowed his head, rubbing the back of his neck guiltily. The fact that she accepted this as something he'd do so easily seemed to be the most crushing part. Cove just stood there, fuming silently. During their little aside, his eyebrows furrowed painfully and his eyes trembled. He felt so bad for everybody. None of this was good at all. It was terrible. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, but must have been only minutes, the tense silence was broken by Cove. I don't want to stay here. That immediately caught his parents' attention. They turned to him with twin expressions of worry. Hey, wait a minute, bud. You don't have to do that.
It's alright.
There's still your room. We'll stay out of your way, I promise. Where could you go at this time of day? It's almost night. I can stay with Aura. He stormed out of the house without waiting for another response. You jumped as the door slammed closed behind him. You just stood there. Cove's parents sighed deeply in unison once the door was shut. For a handful of seconds, no one spoke again. Then Mr. Holden slumped his shoulders, his gaze still lowered. Sorry, Kira. Kira shook her head. Though visibly unhappy, she seemed more disappointed than angry. I don't want to fight about this. I don't even want to talk about this, honestly. Unless there's anything else I should know that's been going on while I'm away. No, there isn't.
Fine.
Then fine. Let's give Cove some time to calm down. We can try and convince him to come home later. Mr. Holden's mouth tightened, but he nodded in agreement. He seemed defeated. Okay. You shifted your feet, feeling awkward. Kira glanced over at you, her eyes widening as if she just realized that you were still there.
Alright.
Oh, Aura, I'm sorry for this. I guess dinner's kind of ruined, huh? Could you go home for now? It wasn't like you had much of a choice, but you nodded anyway before making your way to the front door. You slipped your shoes on without a word. Just as you left, though, Mr. Holden quietly called out to you. I'm really sorry for involving you, Aura. You glanced over your shoulder and met his eyes. The smile he offered you was a shadow of the real thing. You carefully closed the door behind you, letting out a deep breath. Then you began to walk. You stopped once you reached the middle of the street. You glanced around, but you couldn't see Cove anywhere. You hadn't locked the door, so it was possible he'd gone inside by himself. There was only one way to find out. You made the very brief trip back and entered your house. By then, night had fully come. Cove was indeed there. He sat sulkily on your couch, staring at his hands that rested in his lap. Okay, so I want to defend myself. I may have just lost one of the pictures there. One of the pictures you get for moments. I feel like something was about to happen with Cove, but I didn't want to keep that secret from him any longer. It didn't feel right. I feel like maybe if I told him in adulthood, he would have just laughed it off, understanding, but in the moment, I don't know. I didn't want to make him angry. So instead, I chose to tell him. So if I lose a picture, that's fine. I probably missed out on conversation, but maybe I can still remedy this. I didn't take the dollar. I thought it was weird, and I think I can get Cove back in that house. If not, that's how the story goes. This is my story after all. You guys can get a different answer by playing yourself, but I don't want any secrets between me and Cove. So I'm going to tell him. You closed the door behind you and approached him silent. You didn't even get to ponder what to do. He got up and walked a few paces away from you. The two of you stood tensely together in the middle of your living room. The night really hadn't gone as you imagined it would. At least Elizabeth wasn't around, and your moms were out. You had no idea how you would have explained the situation to them. And you were sure Cove wouldn't have been up for that. He watched you from a distance. His expression wasn't hostile, but was not exactly welcoming either. Do you want to be doing this? Cove shifted his back to you. Shifted so his back was to you. Then he crossed his arms over his chest. Are you mad at me? To your surprise, he actually responded. What? No!
It's okay.
I wish I'd known before, but I guess there's never really a good time to bring something like that up. You're not the one who did anything wrong. His tone was clipped and insulting. It was now fully clear that none of the negativity was toward you. And we're actually friends, aren't we? It doesn't matter if you took it or not. You wouldn't pretend for years just because of Dad's money. You nodded your head fiercely at that. There was one thing you didn't want this revelation to do. It was weaken your relationship. Of course we're friends. Cove seemed to appreciate your reassurance. The furrow in his brows eased a little. Yeah, we are. I'm definitely not mad at you. I should thank you for not letting him get to you, and for telling me it happened. My dad never would have. He's always like that. He just does things. He doesn't ask or tell me about it or anything. Cove threw his arms out, his features twisted in frustration. There already was the thing with my mom coming to stay with us for the summer out of nowhere, and that was supposed to be a surprise I'd find out about. Who knows what other things he's done that I've missed, I've never heard of? Does he even know to think about what someone else might actually want? He paused to take a panting breath, scowling. Even if it didn't go well, your dad's only trying to make you happy. No, I'm going to continue to listen quietly. Uninterrupted by you. He needs to vent. When someone's upset like this, they don't need someone talking to them. They need to vent. You just sit there and listen, and when they finally stop talking, then you respond. The worst part is, I know he doesn't do stuff for himself. He does things because he wants to make people happy. Oh, there are tears welling up in his eyes. Cove blinked rapidly, and you noticed tears were gathering in his eyes. When he spoke again, his voice was heavy with emotion. But he just makes everything worse, and then he's really sorry, and it's like it's your fault for not being happy. That he was at least trying. And what if all his plans, and always being so pushy did change things? What things? Cove finally met your gaze, his bottom lip trembling. He realized then that he was referring to you and him. What if what he did made you stay away from me, before we even got to know each other? His voice cracked as he forced himself to speak through the tears that began to fall in earnest. He did, fuck me, damn it, I wanted a happy moment, I fucked it up. He did everything he could to say it, but the words were barely a whisper. Ah! Aura, you were the best thing about coming here. Cove was honestly terrified over the idea there was a chance of the two of you might not have what you do. You hugged. Nope, you wiped away his tears. You weren't sure if the touch would be welcome, but you wanted him to feel better. Cove didn't shrug you off. He leaned into your hand, looking grateful for the comfort. I wouldn't have let anything your dad or anyone else did mess things up. His features crumpled at your words. More tears threatened to fall down his cheek, but he stubbornly blinked them away. He remained like that for just a little while. Then he scrubbed his eyes with the back of one hand. His gaze turned away from you, growing distant. He's like that with my mom, too. The anger he had begun to release bubbled back to the surface. Dad wants to make people happy, but he doesn't! The words landed scathingly hard. You were certain it'd crush Mr. Holden if he heard them. You'd never known much about his parents' relationship, but you thought you understood it a bit better now. You felt bad that things... I'm here for you. I'm here for you. Cove just looked at the ground. As the two of you were stifled by the quiet, a thought came to your mind, abrupt and sudden. I remember that day when it happened. You ran to the hills behind the house. Mr. Holden waited for you to come back while my moms checked the park for you. That was when I met you for the first time. After he talked to me about you. Cove lifted his eyes just enough to see you. His head remained low. I remember too. When we first moved to Sunset Bird, I felt like I lost my whole life. Maybe that's why he wanted to help you start a life here so much. His eyebrows scrunched, and he seemed on the verge of tears once more. It was obvious Cord didn't want to think about his dad that way, but it's also hard not to right now. He must be so conflicted on where to go from here. You do, if you... You might be... You guys really need to learn how to communicate. Cove frowned thoughtfully. He didn't say a thing, but you had a feeling he was taking what you said into consideration. I'm going back home. The deal. During step 2, tell Cove about the deal the dad made with someone. Sorry, achievement. His face was set in determination. There was no way you could tell him to do anything else, even if you wanted to, so you only
I'm
nodded.
sorry.
Thanks, Aura. I'm sorry about all of this. Can I come with you? Yeah, why wouldn't you go? You smiled lightly. Fuck yeah! Just checking. Cove nodded and headed outside. You followed behind him. God, this feels like the first time I watched One Piece. One Piece is like one of my favorite shows. The first time you watch through One Piece, there's so many moments where you just fucking want to cheer. You want to lift your arm up with the whole VV thing. You want to scream. And I'm not talking about just the Netflix show. I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about the actual show. I've mentioned it before, but God, I get so into these games, so into these stories. I love this moment. I love this game, and I never want it to end, but all good things have to come to an end. And I know that too. And so, we'll just continue. And I know the ending of this game is going to make me cry. And I'm so here for it. Once again, the two of you made your way across the street towards his house. He didn't pause at the door. He just opened it wide and went in. Cove's parents were sitting at the table, their heads bowed and silence between them. They snapped over at the sound of the door, relieved to see Cove return. Mr. Holden stood up so suddenly, his chair squealed across the floor.
Cove?
Cove! Kira got out of her chair as well, but less dramatically. How are you feeling, baby? I wanted to talk to you. His parents looked over him, their features soft. Cove instead snuck a glance at you. God, I don't know what I'm gonna do for the thumbnail for this episode. There's so much, good moments and good pictures in this game. It's gonna be really hard to decide. But I'll figure out something. Maybe I'll do a combination thumbnail, like a collage or something. I think that'd be cool. His parents looked over him, their features soft. Cove instead snuck a glance at you. You were glad you could be there for him. You stared back solidly, hoping you could convey your support with your eyes. It must have worked, because Cove stood up a bit straighter. Cove then fully faced his parents. Mr. Holden stepped forward cautiously, his expression twisting in dismay. I'm so sorry. I should have never done something so stupid. It's okay. It really isn't. That was a boneheaded move, if ever there was one. I was bribing an actual child when I'd never even met before that day. Cove almost cracked a smile, though he quickly regained his composure. Then it isn't, but I want things to be okay anyway.
I'm sorry.
Cove, I'm sorry. Kira placed a hand on Mr. Holden's shoulder. Your dad doesn't believe there's something wrong with you, or that you can't make your own friends. He can explain. I know why Dad did it. He wanted me to be happy, that's all. He didn't think it'd be like this. It was an accident. Kira sighed heavily, a sad smile appearing on her lips. You're very grown up, Cove. Mr. Holden brought his hands up against his forehead and began to pace around the room. He didn't seem to know what to do with himself. He turned back around to face Cove and Kira. He looked more solemn than you'd ever seen him. I'm not going to do it again. I haven't done it again. Haven't tried to bribe more people, or haven't continued to step over a line without registering it. Both. He let out a heavy breath before shrinking down a little. It was impressive because he was pretty tall.
Trying.
I don't know, but I don't think so. I'm trying. Cove's throat bobbed as he swallowed thickly. He looked like he was trying to gather all his courage. When he spoke up, his voice was small but firm. You invited Mom here. His dad's eyes widened. Cove was ready to have a talk he had put off before.
You didn't ask me if I wanted things to be like this, with both of you, together again, for just a little while.
Mr. Holden's hands slowly returned to his forehead. He was stunned, as if someone had just hit him. I did it again, and I didn't even notice. What's wrong with me? Why can't I just do something right? At least Cove seemed relieved that he was able to say what he felt. You knew just how long he'd been holding that in. He was quiet for a long stretch. Mr. Holden had sat down in a chair, his shoulders drooped, and his head in his hands. You looked at Cove. He watched his dad, and how genuinely he was struggling with what he'd been told. Cove glanced down at the ground, then looked back to his dad.
I'm not angry anymore.
Slowly, Mr. Holden met his son's eyes.
I can try to talk to you about things, and what I feel about stuff. I stopped saying that to you since everything happened. I didn't want to talk to you, but you won't have to guess if you know.
Mr. Holden broke eye contact at that, shaking his head.
God.
My child shouldn't have to take care of me. Shouldn't have to make up for my shortcomings, Cove. I can fix things. I can still change.
After having something of an outburst, Mr. Holden turned his face away and spoke more guardedly.
Besides, I'm used to that already. I might not get it right, but not a damn thing would happen in what's left of this family if I wasn't making the effort. It's always me. What's one more thing to manage? Dad.
I see.
You're right, Cliff. I know. But I don't think Cove wants to take care of you. He just wants to understand. But he wants his dad to understand, too. That's what matters, isn't it? It was still as Mr. Holden was digesting what Kira had said. He stared down at his empty hands held out in front of him. When he looked at Cove again, tiny tears glimmered in the corner of his eyes. He got up and crossed the room to his son. Cove didn't move or look away as he approached. Mr. Holden set his hands on Cove's shoulders, the touch firm. He furrowed his brows.
Bud, you and I are going to talk about every single thought that ever pops into our heads, for the rest of our life.
He shook Cove forward and back again. Bit. Cove! Tears slipped down Cove's cheeks, but he was smiling.
No! I don't want that!
Mr. Holden began to smile too. It trembled at the corners, but it was genuine.
I'm afraid it's the only way.
Kira chuckled even as she blinked away her own tears. Mr. Holden turned towards her.
You better not be thinking you can get away from this, Kira. The same is gonna apply to you.
You can't! He let go of Cove with one hand and he placed his other arm around Cove's shoulders, then he faced Kira.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes, I can. He continued to talk as he walked in her direction, bringing Cove along with him. Then father and son were standing in front of her. Mr. Holden put his arms around her. Now he had both of them in his arms. Ah, God, I love this.
If you think the ideas that I actually go with are bad, you two are going to be amazed by the thoughts I decide against all on my own.
Kira jokingly cringed at the concept. Cove smiled tearfully up at his parents.
Thanks, Dad.
I'm so glad.
Thank you, son. But hey, you know what I'm thinking now?
Cove, wiping his face with the back of his hand, shook his head. God, no. You're an incomprehensible maniac. Mr. Holden laughed, not disputing her words.
I'm thinking we should eat that dinner I painstakingly made. It's salvageable, just gotta heat it back up.
Kira sighed in an exaggerated relief. That we can manage. Right, Cove.
Yeah, great, we're making progress already.
Well,
Though I don't even know how I'm gonna start making this up to Aura. Carrying that secret for all this time must have been quite the burden to bear. Plus, she didn't actually get any money out of the deal. She didn't take the 20.
I'm not mad about it or anything. It was a hard time for your family.
Either way, I, or we, will work on it.
Okay. Cove ducked his head and spoke towards you. There was a tiny smile on his face.
Do you want to stay for dinner still?
I'd love to. Mr. Holden finally let go of his family. Kira patted him on the back with a condensed sigh. You're very good, boys. I am so lucky. Cove shyly rubbed his arm, while Mr. Holden nervously rubbed his neck. Neither could make eye contact out of bashfulness. In that moment, they really did seem like father and son. Cove's family was nice, you thought to yourself. You were glad that you got to come over. And that is dinner. I am so interested. I'm saving the game, by the way. I am so interested to know how that would have went if I didn't kind of fuck it up. But I like the way it turned out. That was a really good moment, and I feel like that's going to make Cove's father and them a lot closer. And I'm glad it happened earlier on, because I feel like there's going to be a lot more cool moments with them. But yeah, I cannot keep this episode going, because I'm pretty sure this one's going to be a really long one for you guys. So sorry about that, but again, I said I'm posting them in twos no matter what. So, without further ado, thank you all for watching this video, and I'm going to close the door on this one.